Hey guys, AscendantGod here. Here with Raid Shadow Legends, doing a champion spotlight, and it's a duo champion spotlight on both Seducer and Temptress today. The reason we're doing them together is because they have abilities that amps each other up, and I'm going to show you those in a bit to make sense of that. I don't typically do spotlights on rares, but I wanted to touch on these two because they're an extremely powerful combination here. And they're amazing in Faction Wars to the extent where I'm using them instead of a legendary and an epic. The legendary Scartorsis, the epic is Gorgorath, so that says a lot. Scartorsis is great, Gorgorath is great, but these two together are greater. Alright, so as far as that though, they aren't particularly amazing anywhere else. So I'm focusing on their use in Faction Wars. If you're still building your roster though, they can be useful in encounters as well, like Arena. They could be useful in dungeons, definitely not Clan Boss. But most of what I'm covering for them in Faction Wars can be used in those other encounters too if you're still building your roster and you don't have particularly powerful epics or legendaries yet. But in the end game content, their main use is for Faction Wars. But you'll find that even in end game, if you don't have really powerful undead champions, or I should say you don't have a full 5 for the roster, these two can be really powerful. Alright, let me show you why here. Now, starting with Temptress, because Temptress is the weaker of the two here. So you see her here, she doesn't look like anything that spectacular. She got like half of her outfit, but that's okay. Anyway, but she herself is just not good at all. If you only have her, I do not recommend using her just by herself. Alright, let me show you her skills here. Now, her A3 here, normally it does an increased attack and increased crit rate buff on her for 2 turns, but without him it doesn't get an extra turn, which to me I kind of feel is worthless. She increases her attack, increases her crit rate, but then she loses a full turn for it, so she really only gets like 1 turn of it. Like that, I don't know, well I shouldn't say 1 turn, she does get 2 turns, but she misses that whole turn. To me that doesn't make sense. But where she gets an extra turn when Seducer's on the same team, that's pretty cool, because then she buffs herself up, gets increased attack, gets increased crit rate, and then she can attack with either A2 or A1. So when he's on the same team, it's more useful, and it's great because since she gets 30% increased crit rate here, you can get her up to 100% crit rate with this buff by only giving her 70% crit rate, which is what I recommend on her gear. But I'm going to touch on the gear in a bit. So as far as that though, this increased attack, increased crit rate, it's decent. It's not amazing. I mean, there's some legendaries that do that to your entire team, but for a rare, and considering she gets an extra turn, at least she does it for herself and she gets an extra turn, so she's not losing a turn doing this when Seducer's on the team. So that's good. Next, her A2 here. This is again not anything that spectacular. Yes, it gives you a little bit of healing from the leeches once you put them up on an enemy, but I mean, unless you have champions that do a tremendous amount of damage, the healing that they get from leech here is negligible. Alright, leech is just not a particularly powerful debuff. It's only 10% healing, so like if you do say 5,000 damage, you're going to get 500 healing from it. It's only 10%. It's nothing that huge. Alright, so but if you have somebody who hits really hard, then sure, leech could come in useful and it can heal them pretty well. It just depends on the champions and how hard they hit. Alright, the downside of this is that it's 4 hits at random, so even if you're doing this manually with her, you only get to choose one of the targets. The other 3 attacks are going to be random, so you can't focus fire one particular champion down with it. It just shoots off randomly. What makes this really annoying, and I don't understand why they paired this with Seducer, is that Seducer has a sleep. So if you don't know how sleep works, sleep will knock a person out like a daze or a freeze, but if they get hit again before the end of that turn, it wakes them up, so it doesn't even make any difference. So you have to put them to sleep and then not touch that enemy again until their entire turn meter maxes out and they lost the turn. Then you can go at them again. So with that said, he's putting people to sleep. She's randomly attacking champions with her A2 here, waking them up. So it's kind of frustrating. So, and again, she alone just isn't that great here. This doesn't really hit that hard, and like I said, you can't focus fire when it's 4 random attacks. Alright, her A1 here, again, just isn't that great. She has a, at the max skills, 40% chance of stealing a random buff, which isn't horrible. I mean, it can come in handy in some encounters, but it is only a 40% chance, which you don't even have a 50% chance, which would be like 50-50, you know, half the time stealing him. 40% isn't horrible, but it's not amazing either. It's not reliable. But it can come in handy here and there. It's better than nothing, I guess. But overall, she just isn't that great. I mean, her damage doesn't scale well in the least bit. Her abilities here are not anything spectacular. Overall, it's just a little bit of extra damage here and there in the encounter for you. She does modest damage. It's just not for what you would expect out of typical attack champions. All right, but here's why it's worth having her. Okay, Seducer here. This dude is just, he's amazing with her on the team. Even by himself, he's okay. But with her on the team, all right, and let me show you why. It's his A4 here, all right? His A4, this is only available, note here, when Temptress is on the same team. So he doesn't even have this A4 if she's not on the team. When you put her on the team, he has this ability where it's a 50% ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns and a block damage buff on him for 1 turn. That is amazing for a rare. I mean, he puts up a 50% ally protection on everybody and blocks damage on himself for a turn. So basically, for an entire turn of his, he's blocking half of the damage coming into all the other champions, and he's not even taking that damage. That's amazing. At least for a rare. I mean, that's really, really good. All right, and so this is a really strong ability. It comes in really, really useful for keeping your champions alive in encounters. He's just great for protection, great for defense here. And there's other reasons too. Next, this one, his A3. This is another great ability. It places a 30% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns and a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. All right. So again, he's increasing your defense. It's not a 60% increased defense like some legendaries do, but you look at his entire kit, and his kit altogether collectively is amazing, all the different things he can do. Because you're already looking at ally protection here and blocking the damage on him for a turn. Ally protection's great. This one, he increases their defense. And he does a block debuffs. Block debuffs is really, really good because then you can't be debuffed, especially on the bosses. That comes in really, really useful with the bosses when they're trying to put true fear on you. That's really handy. All right. His A2 is, again, another ability that's really powerful for a rare. It's an AoE attack that, with max skills here, has a 100% chance to place a 25% decreased attack debuff on all the enemies for 2 turns. Now, it's not a 50% like some of the legendaries or epics can do, but it's an AoE. So it does it to everybody on the enemy team, and it does damage too. So he attacks and he does this debuff. And so it's really freaking good. I mean, it's you don't see AoE attack downs like this that often in the game. And yes, it is half of the 50%, but still, I mean, with his altogether kit, all the different things he does, his A1 here isn't even that bad either. At max skills, it's a 45% chance of placing a sleep debuff for a turn. All right. Now, this is the one that I told you doesn't function well with Temptress because she has a bad habit of hitting random targets with that A2, like I said previously, and waking people up that are in sleep. But if she doesn't, and if you luck out, he can put sleep on people and keep them from getting a turn too. So this is just really, I mean, he has an amazing kit for a rare. I mean, just absolutely amazing here. And even though he doesn't have the most powerful buffs and debuffs, he has so many different buffs and debuffs. It just makes him great. It makes him really, really great. Now, as far as the gear, I'm going to jump back to Temptress first. With her gear, I don't have particularly spectacular gear on them because I haven't gotten to the point yet where I focused on my undead faction. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to soon though, and I'm going to be working on their gear and I'm going to be working on their masteries. But with Temptress here, like I said, you want to try to get her crit rate to 70. Mine is a little bit over 70% inadvertently, but you get 70% because this A3 here, you know, it's 4-turn cooldown, it's for 2 turns. So half the time she has an extra 30% crit rate. So you really don't have to worry about getting this up to a cumulative 70% really. So even if you get this to 55, and so 55 plus that, the 70, you're fine. So I'm a little bit over, but hey, it's what came with the gear. So And it's not going to kill you to have a little extra crit rate half the time when the buff isn't up anyway. So, but other than that, attack is good on her. You know, but you have to be careful. I mean, she needs defense and hit points too, or else she'll die way too easily on higher levels. What I do is either look for some gear that has like defense in the substats here, so I'm not sure which one. So like you see, she has a defense. That's raw though. You want the defense percentage. So, but yeah, she has some hit points here. What else? She has, I know she has some defense somewhere. Yeah, defense 4%. It's not a whole lot, but like I said, I haven't put that great a gear on them. Other option, and I think I changed this on her recently, she has an attack, she has a defense. Now, I don't know why I put a defense on her instead of crit damage. I think it's just because she wasn't doing much of any good damage. And I think I didn't have a defense ring. So anyway, but I need to work on her gear. So I did put a defense banner on her. Yeah, I think I put the defense banner. She still wasn't surviving good enough. I didn't have a decent ring, so I put this on her because I just didn't see much damage coming out of a crit damage amulet. So, but what I want to do is my goal, once I do work on their gear, is to get probably another defense ring on her, because this 1169 and 800, that's under 2,000. Like, you really want at least 2,000 on her for like the higher stages of Faction Wars. So really needs a little bit more than that. But like I said, I haven't really worked on this yet. This is just gear I slopped onto them just to try to clear the content to get glyphs to at least some level. But you see, I've leveled her up almost to 60. I decided to like max her out because this is the next faction that I'm going to start working on after the one that I'm currently working on. So they're going to get beefed up at that point. All right. And so again, you know, even though she's an attack-based champion, you have to give her some defense. You have to give her some hit points. Prioritize defense. Defense is more valuable. All right. But yeah, again, either substats with defense and hit points, or maybe a ring, a banner with it. Really, she should have a crit damage amulet on her. I don't like that I don't have it on her, but she was just, it was for a particular stage that she was getting killed on too quickly, so I needed to put this on her to keep her alive. But normally you'd want a crit damage amulet on her. So anyway, and some resist doesn't hurt either for the boss debuffs. But since on this group you have Seducer that does the block debuffs, if it's timed right, and especially if you're doing the fight on manual and you know when the True Fear is coming up, you can protect yourself from it with him, so you'll be good. You can't always protect yourself from it, but you can protect yourself enough to where it's not as big of a concern to get resist. Alright, so moving along here with Seducer. Seducer is a defense champion and his damage is defense based. Alright, so you notice the A2 and the A1. Alright, now, since 2 of his 4 abilities don't even do damage, though, don't worry about crit rate or crit damage on him at all, because you notice his A4, no damage. It's just ally protection, block damage. This one here, increased defense, block debuffs, but no damage. So, only half of his attacks do damage, so don't worry about crit rate or damage. Like, if you get a little bit, that's okay. Like, his A2 can hit okay, but I'm finding that he hits okay with a ton of defense, and I find it makes more sense to get him a ton of defense. All right. And you also do want a modest amount of accuracy on him. So you see here, I do have him at 161. I want to get this higher because I'm going up into higher levels where I'm going to probably need to start getting close to 200. But for now, he's applying his debuffs. I'm not having an issue with it. All right, but you want to make sure he has enough accuracy to where you're not seeing resist pop up a whole lot on the enemies. All right, but your main priority with him is keeping him alive so he can keep everybody else alive. So you just ton of defense on him. All right, you see here, like, he's not amazing right now, but again, he's only at level 50 and I haven't even maxed him out yet. This is just my temporary gear that I'm putting on them. By the time that I'm done with him, I'm going to have him up to probably about, I would say, 3,000 to 3,500 defense at least, if not more. It's just, again, I haven't even maxed him out. He doesn't even have a banner on yet, which would give him another, like, say, 300 defense, if not more, if I have defense percent on the substats. So, another thing with him, though, like, you definitely want the accuracy, definitely want the defense. And then the other thing as well, though, resist can be very useful on him for the bosses. Okay, so if you're stuck on a boss in Faction Wars, or you're farming a boss in Faction Wars, I strongly advise putting some resist on him. I don't have much resist on him here, but that's something that once I get the banner, I was considering putting on him because I'm probably going to be farming the stage 14 with them. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, no, they're past stage 14 now since the nerf. So yeah, actually I don't even think I need resist on him anymore because I'm not getting to the stage 21 boss, that's for sure. But no, I'm past the stage 14 now. So anyway, moving along, as far as the masteries, where I'm at in the game, I haven't invested into them yet. Like I said, I haven't really worked that much on this group yet. So I haven't worked on their masteries, but they're pretty clear cut for what you want out of them. So I'm going to show you here what you would want to pick. So with Temptress, you're going to want the offense and the defense trees here. All right. And now the reason is, I mean, she doesn't have any particularly strong abilities that justify the support tree. I mean, the leech, like I said, it's not that amazing. If you have champions that hit really, really hard and you feel like, oh, I want to make sure she gets her leech up because it's healing me amazingly well with champions that do a ton of damage, sure. But otherwise, for the most part, you're going to go offense, you're going to go defense with her. All right, the attack tree is a given for an attack-based champion. You get your, you know, your flawless execution over here for an extra 20% crit damage, or you get the helm smasher, so it's 50% chance of ignoring 25% of the target's defense. And then, you know, the other stats really depend on what you're looking to give her. I mean, the crit rate here, 5%, and the crit damage, that's always a given on any champion that's an attack-based champion. You want some crit rate, you want some crit damage. You know, things like Blood Shield could be useful if you're having a hard time keeping her alive. That can help out some here. If you just want to try to get as much damage as you can, Kill Streak, which ups the damage as she kills people, if you can get her to pump a lot of damage out. All right, and who knows, maybe when I do re-gear her, when I start prioritizing, maybe she'll scale better. But I can already tell you right now, from how much I've experimented with champions on their way to level 60 and with the type of gear that I have on them, she is not scaling well at all. Her attack damage is just not anything amazing. It's not horrible, but it's not amazing either, not even close to it. So I don't know if that would be that great on her, because this is one that could be really good too if you can get her doing 30% of a target's max hit points. In the higher stages, this one becomes less valuable because at the high stages of Faction Wars, you're not going to be doing 30% of the target's max hit points, especially with her, because her hardest hitting one attacks 4 random targets. So it's not going to be all 4 on the one single target. The odds of that would be very, very slim. All right. So anyway, but if you want more information on the masteries themselves, I have guides on that already in this channel of covering the masteries and what masteries are good for what types of champions and for what types of abilities. So if you need some more guides on the masteries themselves and you want like a really, really more in-depth, look at my other mastery guides, okay? Because I just wanted to touch on the main things that are important in here. All right, and then as far as with the defense tree here, you definitely want to give her Resurgent. Resurgent should be on just about all your champions, because in the end game content, when you're taking a lot of damage, oh, it's amazing. Because, I mean, it's a 50% chance to remove a random debuff from the champion if they lose 25% or more of their max hit points. Well, if you're in end game content and you're really high up, you're probably going to be losing 25% in a lot of the hits that you take. All right, so with that said, there's a 50% chance that it's going to remove debuffs from you if you have any debuffs. Other than that, you know, Retribution here is always a great one as well, with the counterattack chance here, as well as the deterrence here. So that's a couple that are really good on her as well. But other than that, as far as the rest of this stuff, a lot of it depends on the encounters you're stuck on or you're working on. You know, sometimes the extra resist would be more advantageous. Sometimes the defense would be. You know, you have to look at it and be like, am I having problems with her taking a lot of debuffs? Or am I having problems with her not having enough defense? But again, remember, Seducer has blocked debuffs. So you don't need resist as bad on this team. It can still come in useful because he can't keep it up constantly on the champions. But, you know, you got to see what's getting her killed if she's the one getting killed. And if she's not the one getting killed, then you might say, well, I don't really need to worry about the defense tree, but what can I do to improve my offense tree to get more damage out of her? All right, you have to see who's dying in your encounters, pay attention to those things. Now, on Seducer, you're going to want something completely different, all right? One of the amazing things about him is that even at 50, you notice he's only at level 50 right now. He is the easiest champion for me to keep alive in Faction Wars. And since I'm not worried about damage on him, there's almost no point in me leveling him up to level 60 at this point. There really isn't, because he's just so good. I mean, other than getting that one extra mastery, but I don't even know if it's going to be worth the trouble. Because like I said, there's just nobody is attacking him. They can't kill him. So With that said, though, you're going to want to do something similar to what I did with Arbiter, which is defense tree, support tree, although not the same ones as her masteries. Her abilities are different, so she has different ones that you'd want to prioritize. But anyway, but yeah, with him, the reason you want the defense and the support is he doesn't do a lot of damage. Like I said, half of his abilities don't even do damage, so you want to focus on defense and support with him, all right? So with that said, you know, I'm going to show you the vital ones. Like in support, you definitely want to get Lasting Gifts and Master Hexer. Lasting Gifts here extend the duration of any buffs cast by a turn, 30% chance of it, and then Master Hexer has a 30% chance of extending the duration of any debuffs. Now he has, like I said, his kit is amazing. He has tons of buffs and tons of debuffs. So the Lasting Gifts here, this improves the ally protection, the increased defense, and the block buffs buff that he gives. All right, he has so many that it only makes sense to get Lasting Gifts if you're going to get his masteries here. All right, it won't extend the sleep because it just doesn't, oh, excuse me, not the sleep. This one wasn't, it won't extend his block damage, because you notice here it doesn't extend block damage. But what I was going to get into next is the Master Hexer. All right, so with Master Hexer, this extends the attack down. Again, now this is the one that won't extend the sleep, because you see it does not extend sleep. But that attack down is really powerful because, I mean, yeah, normally you'd want a 50% AoE attack down, but in the Undead, I don't even know if there's anybody off the top of my head that does an AoE attack down in Undead. I don't know of anybody else off the top of my head, so he may be the only choice at 25%. But if not, I mean, even if he's your only choice, you still want to get that Master Hexer to have a chance to extend it by a turn. It's worth it, all right? Because again, you don't really have to worry too much about survival on him. He's not going to pump out much damage, so it only makes sense to get that support tree, all right? And then, yeah, other than that, those are the main things you want to give him in the support tree there. In the defense tree, again, it's similar to Temptress. It depends on what you need as far as more resist or more defense, all right, and seeing what's going wrong in the encounters and what you need to give him. The other abilities, I mean, you definitely want that Resurgent again. You definitely want this Retribution for, most likely he's not going to take 50% of his damage, but it might happen on the boss, and if it does, you have that chance to do the Retribution. Another thing that you could do here, though, is like the critical hits. That's another one that's really good on him, probably more advantageous than this Deterrent. Or if you can get both, if you can get this one and this other one here. This one is definitely a really good skill of increasing the turn meter here when your champions take critical hits, because you want him going through his turns as quickly as possible, too. You want him having a lot of turns so he can keep pumping those buffs and debuffs out on everybody. All right. So I think that's really about it as far as the Seducer and Temptress combo. Now, again, you know, Temptress here isn't really that great on her own, but what it's about is what she does for Seducer here, where she opens up that A4 of his, and this A4, it's just an amazing ability. If you have Skull Crusher, like, you know what ally protection can do. If you have somebody like Skull Crusher or somebody else that does ally protection, it's a great ability, all right? It's just great damage absorption there, all right? So I think, yeah, I think that about covers everything. I mean, Seducer here is just an extremely powerful rare. Even without her, he's decent with his A1, A2, and A3. But with her, just that A4, that's a really strong ability. It's really good. It's worth having her on the team. I mean, unless you have somebody else that's like really, really powerful. But for me, I've experimented with Skartosis and removing her. I experimented with Skartosis Gorgorath at one point. Like, no, these two are what you want. So anyway, at least in mine. So anyway, but yeah, Seducer, in my opinion, he is one of the most potent rares in the game. I mean, at least in his particular category, as far as a defense and protection type of champion, in my opinion, as far as a rare, he's probably the most valuable. I mean, just again, if he's with Seducer, but if you can't pair him with Seducer, then no, I think there's a few others out there that are probably a little bit better than him, little bit. But even without her, he's still a really powerful rare. Like, he's good. He's really good in Faction Wars. If you don't have a full set of epics or legendaries still working on your roster, he is a good way to go. I mean, do not underestimate this, where it's increased defense, block debuffs. That's amazing, block debuffs. All right, the decreased attack, you know, the sleep, not so much, but it can come in useful. And especially if you don't have Seducer on the team and you have like single target champions or not a ton of AoE, then the A1 would be a little more valuable. So it's like you lose her, you lose this, which is horrible, but this becomes a little more valuable most likely if you don't have other champions that have random attacks. So anyway, but I think that covers about everything as far as the basics with these guys. Again, this is a really, really powerful combination, guys. I don't know any other rares that work in conjunction with each other like this that buff each other up as powerfully. I didn't say buff each other. I should say that she buffs him as powerfully as she does. It's just amazing. So anyway, but that's all that I got for now on these guys. If you do have any other questions or comments or anything, leave them in the comments below. But otherwise, I think I covered all the basics on these guys and how to get you rolling into faction wars with them going in really strong here. All right, so that's it for this champion spotlight on these guys. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope it comes in useful for you. Let us know in the comments below. And other than that, I will catch you guys in the next episode. Hey guys, Anthony here, also known on this channel as AscendantGod. And shout out from down below because we love everybody equally here. Well, thank you guys for checking out the channel here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with the latest content as I provided on here. Also, be sure to check out the description sections of the videos regularly as well. That's where I provide you guys with all the resources that I'm able to find that I think would be useful for you. It's also where you can show your support, and it is much appreciated because regretfully, playing video games and making funny videos doesn't support the family. So any support you guys give is really appreciated. And other than that, I think that's about all that I got for now. So in the meantime, I'm gonna get back to this here. I think I almost got it figured out. So wish me luck, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. So until then,